Hi, it's Dorothy guiding with Scrapbooking Quebec. Today I'm participating in Kiki Halbert's monthly YouTube collaboration, Scrapbooking from the Heart. We create layouts inspired by one-word prompts that encourage you to look at your stories in more depth. September's prompt is learning. So there's lots of ways to use this prompt. School is an obvious one. But as humans, we learn every day from our curiosity, our mistakes, even our problems. I'm in the mood to do something much lighter than that. So I'm going to be documenting how we learn from hobbies. So in a moment, you're going to see two photos of my husband's hot pepper garden and the hot sauce he made, his first batch of 2021. So I'm going to talk more about the story when I do my journaling at the very end of this video. So here's what I'm going to be using. It's a leftovers from Jen Hadfield's Reaching Out collection. And this collection is pretty picked over, so I am going to be digging into my tools. And even though I'm going to be making my own embellishments for this layout, the clusters can easily be replaced with store-bought decorations. I've made this very same page design with ephemera that was already made. Now, before jumping in, I want to mention there is a list in the description box below of all of the other participants, so be sure to check them out. Here's what's on my desk: a piece of 12 by 12 bezel marshmallow cardstock, two matted photos, and a bunch of paper. Like I said, it's from Jen Hadfield's Reaching Out collection, except that wood grain, it's from Simple Stories. I have a bunch of scraps handy because I am going to be making some embellishments later on. I have two alpha books from Simple Stories, a bunch of decorations in this tray, and I also have a basket of tools. And I'll talk more about these products throughout the process. The first thing I'm going to do is prepare my foundation page, and I'm going to do this in two steps. Now, the first step is to add a narrow border to the top and to the bottom of the page. I'm doing it from behind the foundation page. So what I did is I cut this narrow strip of paper. I cut mine at 1.5 inches wide by 12 inches long, but I'm adhering it behind that white paper so that the striped paper peeks out 1/2 inch. Now I'm putting the entire thing in my trimmer and I'm cutting it down to 11.5 inches. Now what I'm going to do is add some more adhesive behind that white foundation page, and I'm going to add this border to the bottom, and I'm going to make sure it peeks out 1/2 inch. So now, once again, I have a foundation page that measures 12 by 12. An easier way would have been to leave the foundation page 12 by 12, the white paper, and add two strips of paper, 1/2 inch by 12 inch, to the top and bottom of the page. Now I'm doing the second part, and I'm creating a layered photo mat. So I'm cutting down 3 papers here, and I will put measurements for everything I'm doing on the screen. And the measurements for the border at the top and the bottom of the page will be for visible page parts only. So if you want to tuck it behind like mine, you'll have to cut it a little bit wider. I'm showing you a planner page that I cut off camera. That is a die from Elizabeth Craft Designs. I use it all the time. This planner page is going to serve as a layering piece as well as a journaling box. Now, before adhering this, I want to apply a bit of ink to the top right and bottom left corners. And the ink I'm using is Crushed Curry by Stampin' Up, and I'm using a Picket Fence Studio blending brush. I'm just applying a bit of ink in the area where I will be putting my embellishment clusters later on, just the foundation layer on the foundation page. When I start applying the ink, I always make sure I do it in an area that will be covered up by the photo mat, because when I start it, for some reason, there's always a blob. Maybe I'm pressing too hard or something. Anyway, I blend out towards the area that will be visible on the layout, and that just works for me. So I have that down, and now what I'm going to do is adhere the page parts to the page. So the layered photo mat, the photos, as well as the planner page. I want to point out that I'm adhering at this point because I'm using an adhesive that permits me to basically lift up the pieces for a time being. It is permanent. It's by Easy Runner, I think. And it is permanent, but it gives me a little bit of time before it becomes permanent, because I will be tucking in embellishments within the layers a little bit later on. So if you're using an adhesive that becomes permanent immediately, maybe you want to hold off on adhering at this point. Like I said, mine doesn't become permanent right away, so I don't mind adhering right now. So once I get all of this down, I have my photos in place, the page parts, the journaling. I do have to establish a spot for the title. So I did cut out my title, part of my title in advance with these dies from Elizabeth Craft Designs. I absolutely love these dies, by the way. They're new to me. They are stitched dies. So for the word this, I cut it out 3 times, adhered it one on top of the other to make kind of chipboard letters. And I showed you 2 alpha books from Simple Stories. I will be adding to my title later on. I'm showing you the embellishing I have on my desk. I have leftovers from this Reaching Out collection. I have these labels here from Tim Holtz. I do end up using those. I have some puppy hearts, both from Pink Fresh Studio and Amy Tangerine, and I'm showing you what I created off camera. So I die cut these leaves from a Stampin' Up collection called Forever Flourishing Dies, and I also punched out this flower pot. So I had to stamp it and punch it out. It's from an older collection called Grown with Love from Stampin' Up. And I also cut out some chicken wire. Now this is from a die set from Impression Obsession. It's a gift to me from Joy at the Scrapbook Nerd. She heard that I was looking for chicken wire dies and I couldn't find any. The next thing I knew, I had one on the way. So that was very kind of her. Anyway, what I'm showing you right now is another bundle from Stampin' Up, and it's called Jar of Flowers bundle. And the reason why I'm showing you this, it's from a stamp set that has reversible stamps. And when I first saw these, I had no idea how they worked. So basically, what I'm doing here is stamping out a mason jar. Now I'm washing it, and you're going to see me flip the very same stamp around. What I'm going to do is use the back side of this stamp. Now I'm using this other ink here. The color actually escapes me. It's a Stampin' Up ink. And I'm stamping on top of the jar that I already stamped out in black ink. So you can see there, I've filled in the color, but I'm using the very same stamp, just both sides of it. Now what I'm going to do is stamp the other jar. And this one here, again, I could use both sides, but I'm just using the solid side. But for this particular stamp, it just fills up half the jar. This stamp set comes with a whole bunch of other stuff as well. I'm only using the mason jars for this particular layout, and I will make some more off screen. I just wanted to show you how that reversible stamp worked. This one comes with a coordinating punch, so what you're going to see me do is punch out these mason jars, and then what I'm going to do in a minute is just kind of beef up these mason jars. So you're going to see I have some metallic paper on my desk. I end up punching out the jar tops with the metallic paper, and you're going to see I use this very same punch. I'm just going to slip the paper in part way, and then I'm going to finish off by adding more embellishing to these mason jars. Like I said, I just wanted to show you how these worked because I have a few sets of these reversible stamps in my stash, and when I first got them, I had absolutely no idea how they worked. So I thought maybe in case there were any of you out there who didn't know how these reversible stamps worked, I thought I would take the time to show you. So you can see there, I just slipped that metallic paper in partway in the punch and punched myself out 2 jar tops. So I'm adhering those to the top of the jars. And now I'm getting out this linen thread from Stampin' Up, and I'm just going to tie a bow on top of one of these jars. Then what I'm going to do is finish off the jar with those tiny label stickers from Tim Holtz. That particular collection has 4 different colors, but I'm going to be using the black ones. There I go, into it right there. And now I have really cute little mason jar. So as you can see, I did some in another color as well. It's also that crushed curry color that I used earlier when I applied some ink to my foundation page. Now I'm going to show you another trick with stamp and die combos, a trick that I found very helpful. This is particularly helpful when you're using a larger stamp that coordinates with a die. I find when you have a larger stamp that coordinates with a die, if it's in this clear photo polymer, if I just stamp it and then go to die cut, it doesn't seem to fit sometimes. So what you saw me do right there is place the stamp on the block, then I took the die, placed it on top of the stamp just to make sure that the 2 met up, that the two matched. Those stamps sometimes are flexible, so if you plop them right on the block, stamp, and then go to die cut, sometimes the stamped image doesn't actually match the die. Anyway, I found this trick particularly helpful. And here is another trick I'm going to show you. I'm getting out some words from this very same stamp set, stamp and die set here. And right now I have it on a block that's meant for those small words, but I find when I go to stamp with the proper size block, the edges of the block make it so that I can't see exactly where I'm stamping. So I placed the words, which is grown with love, on a block that was just a little bit bigger. And because the edges were further away from the actual stamp, I could see exactly where I was placing it. For me, it's just a little trick that helps a lot. By the way, this stamp set and die set is from an old bundle from Stampin' Up called From the Garden. It has all these little garden stakes and stuff like that. Super, super cute. Anyway, as you can see, I am die cutting that garden stake and it fits perfectly because of that little trick. So now I have all of my embellishing around me. I know my title's going to go there in the top right somewhere. But what I'm going to do right now is create two main embellishment clusters, and on top of it, that's where I will be adding my title. So I'm starting with the bigger pieces as always. So I'm starting with the pieces that I've made, of course, but if you're using store-bought pieces, just simply start with your larger pieces. So I started with the chicken wire as well as the leaves. I did that at the top, that's where I'm working right now, but I'll do the same thing in the bottom left as well. I also want to point out the order in which I am placing my embellishments. You can see there at the top, the flower pot is there and the leaves and the garden stake, and at the bottom, that is where I'm placing the mason jars. That 100% follows my story. The title of my page is going to be It All Boils Down to This, and it's talking about how it starts with a plant and ends in hot sauce. So at the top of the page, I have the plant, and at the bottom page in the embellishment cluster, I have the hot sauce. So there is a method to how I'm actually placing my embellishment clusters. Now I'm going to adhere it, and one challenge I have when I am creating embellishment clusters with all these layers is I have these beautiful layers, the chicken wire, the leaves, and then the mason jars. But by the time I get to the last mason jar, sometimes everything is covered up. So I'm trying to be aware of that. I do have some chicken wire that's still visible there. I find there at the bottom left, a lot of my leaves are hidden, so I'm adding a few more in and around those mason jars. And I'm going to do the same for the top as well. So you can see me, I'm adhering the leaves down, then I'm coming in with the chicken wire, and then I will come in with the flower pot and then the title. The adhesive I'm using is called Sticky Specs by Ecstasy Crafts. It's an adhesive I use when I adhere detailed pieces to a page. So basically you lift the clear cellophane, you place the detailed piece on that yellow sticky paper, and it picks up the adhesive. So now you can see I stopped the camera, I continued with my title, and I added the extra words to my title, and I did that off camera because it was from those Simple Stories sticker books that are particularly fragile. So I prefer to do that without a camera on, and I have my title there, and now I'm coming in with some finishing touches. I fuss around a little bit with that pot at the top. I added some more leaves to it. I did add a heart to that label at the bottom. I thought of adding a label to the top. I didn't like it, so I removed it, and now I'm simply adding staples to each side of that yellow border that goes across the page. I'm basically done here. I'm adding a tiny bit of chicken wire up there in the top left, just as a small hint of a visual triangle, and that's it. All I did off camera was my journaling, of course, and if you look at that flower pot up there in the title, I did add a bit of twine there, a little bow, just to repeat the bows that are at the bottom of the page. So now, before going on, I am going to read my journaling for you, and as I mentioned earlier, I decided to keep this pretty light this month, so I don't know if it actually qualifies as scrapbooking from the heart, but nevertheless, here's my story. After 8 months of research, ordering seeds online, then sprouting, planting, snipping, transplanting, fertilizing, and watering, it all comes down to this: the hot sauce. This was the first batch in 2021, featuring the super hot 7-pot bubble gum. Now on the coordinating page, I will be adding a few more sentences, and they're going to go like this. He tweaked his recipe even though the pepperheads loved it last year. Will it be better? I wouldn't know. I'm not a pepperhead. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would be absolutely thrilled if you did. And if you are a subscriber, thank you very, very much. Don't forget, there are a bunch of links below to all the other participants, so be sure to check them out. And I will see you soon on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.